Welcome back to today's class. My name is Tammy and I'm the creative director of Tom Fashion Empire. So in today's video guys, we are going to be making this jumpsuit you are seeing on your screen. So now I'm going to be working with this Ankara fabric. It's just 2 yards and this lace fabric. So I'm praying that it will be enough. So before we go ahead, let me say this. If you are an old time subscriber, guys, thank you. I really appreciate you guys are the best. And if you are stopping by for the first time, you are watching my video for the first time, please, before you go ahead, kindly subscribe. That's it, right down there. Yes, I know you see it. And beside it, there's another bell. That's the notification bell. Just click on it so that whenever I post video, you'll be the first person to be notified, and you'll be able to come in and come watch it. Now, let's get right into this business. So now, the first thing you need to do, you need to get your measurement ready. So you need your back measurement. I'm going to be listing it so you can see your. Now, once you have your measurement, for me, I'm going to be starting with the trouser part of the design. So that's where I'm going to be starting with. Now, I'm working with the total length, I mean width rather, of the fabric I have here is let me measure it. You know, Ankara is no longer folded using 36, so it's now actually up to 60, I mean 72. So let me just measure it so I know what I have here. So this is 60. I'm going to go ahead and measure. Okay, now this is 69 and a half. So that means I'm going to divide it by two. Let me just say 69. That means I'm expected to have a total of 34 and a half on each part. So now I'm going to place my fabric on fold now using, I won't use the total of that 34 and a half, and I can use it. Why can I use it? Because if you look at the Ankara I'm working with, it doesn't have a design or a pattern that I need to follow. So I can decide to fold the front like this, and cut the waistline from here. And when cutting the back, I can decide to fold it the same way and cut the waistline from here, because the pattern is not like the upper part is different and the lower part is different. So now whenever you are working with a fabric, these are one of the things that you do want to consider, so that you don't place the pattern of your fabric wrongly. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and measure. Remember what I said I'm going to be working with. So now, if you look at the gathering of that jumpsuit, it's not too much. If you want yours to be much, you can go ahead, multiply your waist measurement by 2. You can do 3, depending on what you want. But me, I'm on a plus size, so I don't want to go ahead and multiply my waist by 2 or 3, because if I do so and the jumpsuit is too big, I won't feel comfortable always rocking it. These are one of the things that you do want to put in consideration when you are working with any style or any garment. So now I'm going to go ahead and place my fabric on fold now. Fabric on fold using 16 inches now. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to determine the length of my the pants that I'm working with. Now the total length of my jumpsuit is going to be 50 now, and my half length is 17. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 17 from my 15. And whatever I have left, you want to go ahead, add your bending allowance to the trouser to it, and you measure it. So I'm going to go ahead and measure mine now. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my 35. 33 is 17 minus 50, then plus my 2, which is 35. So, and you can go ahead and do more. Let's say because of the wasting 2, I can just go ahead and add 3, which makes it 36. So that means I'm going to be working with 36 inches now. So I'm going to measure it all the way and connect it on a straight line. And once I've done this, the next thing I'm going to do is to come to this side. Now, for the fact that it is a gathered pant doesn't mean that it shouldn't still have or show that shaping of the trouser. So from the side here, I'm going to measure 1 inch all the way up. 1 inch all the way. And I'm going to go ahead and connect it. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my measurement. Now, the waist I'm working with is 33, while the hip is 40 something. So now the hip I'm working with is 46. Now, for me, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use the hip. I can use the hip measurement anyway, because it simply means that the waist and the hip, the difference is much. So whatever I have left at the waistline is what I'm going to pleat or gathered. So now the hip measurement divided by 4, that is 46 divided by 2, we have 23, that is 11 and a half. So I'm going to measure from this line here, this line here. So that is my 11 and a half. And if you feel you want more, the only thing I need here for the shaping of the crotch is 2 to 2.5. So I can go ahead and use the total of what I have here, just leaving the 2.5 here. So now I have 12.5. I'm just going to mark it like I've done this way. So this is my 12.5 here. And I'm going to go ahead, measure the length of my crotch. Now, for the crotch, I'm going to work with 11.5 inches. 11.5. I'm going to measure it all the way. This is so because it is a jumpsuit, so it is coming to the high waist, not the low waist. That is why I'm working with a lot of length, which is 11.5. Now once I do so, on this point now, I'm simply going to go ahead and measure 2.5. Remember, that is for the crotch shaping. I'm going to come up here too and measure the 2.5 and connect it all the way on a straight line. And this is what I have now. Now once I do so, I'm going to go ahead and connect it here too as well. This is it. Now once I do so, I'm just going to slightly shape it. There is 2.5 here. You can come up here to by 2.5. Then it's just going to be a slight shaping, not too sharp, not too sharp shaping, just like you're writing L. So, and that's that for the crotch now. Now, let's go ahead. Automatically, what I have here is going to be more than enough, even for considering my hip measurement whatsoever. So that's why I say, if you want it to be full, you can work with your waist measurement, multiply by 2, multiply by 2.5, or even multiply by 3. But if you don't want it to be too much, if you just want it to be minimal, like me, I don't. If you are slim, you can work with that. But if you are on the plus side, really, really plus side, you don't want to work with too much so that everything don't just look big on you. I hope you get that. So now I'm going to go ahead now. I've measured the length of the trouser. I'm going to go ahead and measure my waist to knee. So my waist to knee now is 23. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that point. All this is just to give a guideline, because looking at the picture, the hem is not as wide as the waistline and all that. So this is just a guideline that we are trying to create here. Okay, so this is it. Now once I do so, the next thing I'm going to do now is to come here. You can decide the total length I have here now. So this line is 15.5. So you can decide how wide you want the bodice to be. I can decide to do, since I have 15.5 here too, I can decide to come in here by 2 and come in here also by 2. You can do 1 1. Looking at it now, I have up to 12, which my knee circumference is not even up to 24. So I'm having 12 here. So depending on how wide you want it to be, you can do 2 to the left, 2 to the right, or do 1 or do 1.5, but don't do more than 2 inches. So I'm going to stick with 1 inch here and 1 inch here on the raised knee point. I'm also going to come down to the M. To the M now, I'm going to do more, because you can't compare the measurements we have at the waist knee to what we have at the M. So to the M now, I'm going to do 1.5 to the left and the same 1.5 to on the other side, on both sides of my trouser. And once I do so, I'm going to go ahead and connect this to the one. So you can as well just go ahead and connect everything. Since looking at mine now, everything is balanced. So I can go ahead and connect everything all the way. So this is it. So this is it here. I'm going to come to this side too. I'm going to connect this to the wrist neck first. This side is going to be a little bit different now. And I'm going to bring it out at the crotch level here. So I'm just going to measure what I use, which is 11.5. So I'm going to measure the same 11.5, and I'm going to bring it outside here, outside at this point here. So this is it now. Now, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Basically, we are done with the front pants leg now. Let's go ahead and cut. So now this is what I have for the front now. These two pieces now are simply for the front. So I'm going to place it aside, place my fabric on fold. Now to place your fabric on fold for the back piece, this is what you do. Whatever you have here, here I have 15 and a half. There's going to be a crotch, rather, a crotch extension at the back. There's going to be a crotch extension at the back here. So now the crotch extension can be 2.5 to 3 inches, not more than three. So I can come out here, measure the three for the crotch extension. Then I'll measure what I have here. So I'm having 18 and a half here now. Then I'll add one, which is going to be for my seam allowance at this side. So plus one, that means 19 and a half. So it means that my fold now must be 19 and a half for the back piece. Let's go ahead and do that. To cut the back, all I have done this already. I had to spread it out because remember I said that I'm working with a fabric of 2 yards. So norms, I'm supposed to work with 2.5 or even 3 yards for this project. But the Ankara I have left, it is just 2 yards. So I need to know how to work around it. So now I had to spread it out. And when you do so, make sure that you place right side to right side, right side to right side, so that you won't be cutting two left legs or two right legs. That is very, very important. Now, so once I do so, this is the waistline of this pant leg now. This is the front. You can see the shaping of the crotch. Now, there's something we call bum rise. Because of the bum that is going to be at the back piece, you need to increase the length. So I'm going to be doing so by 2 inches. I'm going to come up here. This is it. I'm going to come up by 2 inches and I'll blend it back to this waist level here. So now I've blended it to this waist level here back. For the crotch, you can go ahead and add half-inch seam allowance. But what I do say is, that's for the zipper. You don't need the seam allowance because already you are going to be sewing the back crotch and the front. I mean the left and the right back pant legs together. And when doing so, you are going to be working with half-inch seam allowance. So automatically, that half-inch seam allowance is enough for you to fix your zip. But if you feel it's not enough, you can simply go ahead, add half-inch, just half-inch, so you have 1 inch now. Add half-inch all the way to wherever the length of your zip where you feel it's going to get to. If it is going to be up to 9, you can measure your 9 inches. Then you mark half-inch all the way to that point. So just mark your half-inch, follow the shaping of that punch. It simply means that when you cut this one, you come out here indicating this is for zipper allowance. And once you do so, at the inseam area here, where the back crotch is going to be. Remember I said you can work with 2.5 to 3. For the fabric now, it's not going to be enough. So if you are working with plus size, please kindly work with 3. So now I'm going to measure, and once I do so, this is my 2.5 here. I'm going to come straight to the M and measure my 1.5. So and once I do so, I'm just going to go ahead and connect the 2 points. So I'm going to just blend it with the M of the pant. Now at this other side, you can work with half to 1 inch. One of the reasons why I'm working with half-inch is because it's already a gathered pant. So an half-inch seam allowance is enough for me on a pant. So I'm just going to work with half. So if you are doing this for the first time, kindly use up to 1 inch. At times, some people even use up to 1.5. It's not a same place. So it's better you have allowance that you can always work with than you made a mistake and you cut less and there's nothing to work with. So I'm going to measure the half all the way to the extension up here because that is where we need it all the way, all the way, all the way. So you can simply go ahead and connect it as well. Note that right side place or right side place, that is very important. So at the crotch level here too, I'm going to measure my 2.5. So and at the end, remember you measure your 1.5, and once you do so, you just go ahead and you connect it. Okay, and that's what we have. Now remember at this point now I measured 9 inches. That is to increase the normal seam here is going to be half. But in order to increase it, so I'm measuring 9 now. And I'm simply going to measure my half. My half. My half. Half all the way. half all the way to that point, and this one still comes this way, and that's it. So, and the bum rise too is going to be at the CB. So let me measure my 2 inches here first. So yeah, so, and I'll blend it to that point there. You measure the 2 inches at I'm going to make a correction over there. You measure the 2 inches at the center back. This is going to be the center back. Sorry about that. This is going to be the center back of your pants. Remember, this is the center front. This is the center back here. So the bum rise is going to be at the center back, not at the side. Kindly note that. So, and once you do so, you bring the level back to the same thing that the side seam is. This is the side seam area now. By doing this, you are simply giving more room to the bum that will sit at the back. That is basically what you are doing. You are giving the more room to the fabric so that it gives room for the bum to sit perfectly at the back. And once you do that, don't forget the half inch here. Let me go ahead and connect this first. Then I'll measure my half inch here now. So it can be a little bit tricky at times, but kindly take your time through it. Don't be in a haste. Take your time through it, and you go. The half inch is for the zipper allowance, and we cut it out now. At the other side too, we add half inch all the way. Like I said, I'm doing half because I'm working with the gathered pants and it is mine, so that's why I'm working with half fold. So if it's like I said, there is a correction needed here. This is the crotch area. This is where I need the bum rise, not that side. So I'm just going to bring it to this point once and for all. Since this is my waistline, I'm going to bring it here. Then I'll connect it to the extension of the half inch at the side. I'll go all the way up. And that's it. So at this point, so we do come down by half inch at the crotch level here. It's simply you just creating more room for the bum. Then you will shape it. So let me show you. Let's go ahead and cut this. So, and this is what we have done. So by the time we are done fixing the front to the back and all that, this is just recreating room, and this is what we have for the zipper allowance. So you can go ahead and do the same thing too for the other leg now. Let's go. So when working with the back, don't forget come down here by half, and you slightly blend it. So now once I'm done, I'm going to pack the two pant legs aside and work with the bodies. This brown paper to cut the front before I then cut the fabric out. So now my half length is 17 and a half, which I'm going to add 1 inch to, which is 18 and a half. So I'm going to measure the 18 and a half. And once I do so, I'll go ahead and connect here. Next thing, you can go ahead and just cut this out now, or you can still leave it together. Now, let's go ahead and work with the bodies. Now, looking at the part there is the yoke is the lace part, while the main body is the Ankara part. So I'm going to go ahead now and measure, start taking my measurement. My back is 15, and my 15 divided by 2, I have 7.5 plus half, I have 8. Now, at that point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. That is for the shoulder slab. Then, my neck point, I'm going to measure my 3 inches for the neck point. This is my 3. I'm going to go ahead and blend it together. Now, to get my armpits, I'm going to measure 8.5 inches down. That is why I use 8.5. And I'm going to make sure whatever I have from my center front to the shoulder point is the same thing. So that I have this accurate straight line, which will aid me in shaping my armpit accurately, which is 8 inches. Then I'll connect it this way. Now, once I do so, I'm going to go ahead and divide my bust measurement, which is 40 divided by 4, I have 10. So I'm going to slightly use it to draw a little line outside, and then I'll come back and mark my 10 inches point, which is here now. Okay, then let's move ahead to the waist. My waist measurement is 33, and I'm going to divide it by 4 as well. 33 divided by 2, we have 16.5. Then further divided by 2, we have 8.25. So I'm going to measure it, and this is the point. Now, the next thing is going to be to do some little things. Let me extend the 8.5 a little bit. 8 and half. So I'm just going to extend it. Okay, now we are almost we are not yet done. Okay, now the next thing is you are going to notice that it has a bustier. So I'm going to try and create my style line and do some pickings there. Now my nipple to nipple distance is 4. I'm going to measure my 4. Let me just measure it here. Plus half or 1/4, whatever you are going to sew in. So I'm using 4 1/4 here. Let me note my shoulder to bust point here. So it gives me a guideline. My shoulder to nipple point is 10. My shoulder to under bust is 13. So I'm going to bring it here too as well. That is 10 and that is 13. And once I mark it at the center front, I'm going to connect it. This is just so I have a guideline of what I'm working with. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark my 4 1/4 now, which is here. I'm going to go ahead, mark it too on my bust point, which is here. Okay, and I have it on my waistline too, which is right at this point here. Now, once I do so, I'm going to go ahead and get the midpoint on my shoulder. That's from my shoulder point to my neck point, which is 2. I have 5 1/4 here. So my midpoint is going to be 258, and I've marked that point. And once I do so, I'll connect from my waistline up to my nipple point. Then from this point now to the shoulder. And once I do so now, it's now time to take in the dart. So for me, I'm going to be taking 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right at the waistline. And at the other bust, I'm going to be doing more. So at this point, I'll just come in by 1 inch, just slightly. And at this point, I'll do much more. So I'll take up to 2 inches. Up to 2, which is here now. And once I do so, I'm going to go ahead and connect everything here to here. Then I have here to here. Okay. Then at this point, don't forget to come up by 1 inch. That is where the dart stops. And come down by 1 inch. So, and I'm going to connect here now. That's the 1 inch point here to here. And this 1 inch point here now. So this point as well. And once I do so, the next thing is going to be to work with the shoulder dart. Now, for my shoulder dart now, you can take half, you can take 3/4 up to 1 inch. Depends on how fitted you want it to be. So I'm going to take my 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right. And I'll connect it to this point here. I'll do the same thing too. I'll connect it to this point here. So now that's the dart intake basically. Now the next thing is going to be whatever you take out, you want to return it, because if you do not, it simply means you've shortened your measurement. So now for me at the waistline, I'm going to take out 2 inches. I'm going to make sure I add my 2 inches back. Then I can now go ahead and add whatever my seam allowance is going to be. If it is going to be 2, if it is going to be 2.5, you can now go ahead and add it back. So now I'm going to add mine back as well. Now, looking at this point, which is the bust line, this is the true bust point. That is the nipple, and this is the bust line. This is where we use the bust line here. Aids us in shaping the armhole correctly. So now, I'm going to check here. Looking at it, there isn't going to be a cutout here, so there's nothing to be returned back here. So I'm just going to come to this point here now and add my seam allowance. So, and I'm going to mark the point. And once I do so, I'll go ahead and connect each point. So at times the shape might look one kind, but don't be bothered. The most important thing is your measurement accurate. As much as it is accurate, then you are good to go. Now, once I do so, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to cut out a total of 2 inches here, which I'm going to return it. So I'm going to return it back here, mark the point. Instead of to note that I'm making it 2.5, because of the seam from here to here, by the time we cut it now, there's going to be a seam here, or if there isn't going to be a seam here, you can always cut it out and use it to reshape your armhole. So I hope you understand. Looking at the design we are making, there isn't going to be a seam at this point here. So I can as well just go ahead and use my 2 inches directly and not consider any half. Okay, then I'm going to blend it to this point. So you extend it by the 2 inches back. Then you can now go ahead and shape your armhole. Do your armhole shaping. And that's it. So basically we are done with the front. The only thing now is to now decide the yoke. How do you want the yoke to be? So if you like, you can decide to make it as low as, let it get to the armpit point. Then at this point, maybe since that is it, I won't be able to wear mine if it is low. So I need to work with something I'll be able to wear. So that's me. So you also want to go ahead and work with something you'll be able to wear. So if my neck, if the neck depth, the yoke at the front here is coming as low as 8, I won't be able to, because considering the lace I'm working with, there is not even show the flesh. So you want to go ahead and do what is okay for you. So for me, instead of going down, I'm going to be coming up here. So here I'm going to come up by 7 inches. Note what I'm going to do. Then I can go ahead and do something like this now. So as a matter of fact, I can decide to work with the armpit line and come up this way. So you want to do what works for you. We are only using the design as the guideline. So if there is anything that you can't work with the design, you can change it like I am doing for mine. Now, if it is the bodies, I would have come a little bit lower. If I'm using this point here, which is 8 inches, I would have come a little bit lower so that I can have that accurate neck shaping. But for me, I'm not sticking to that. So that's what I'm doing mine now. So my lace is just going to be 7 inches at the center front, and at the side I'm matching it up to the the armpit point here, which is 8.5. So that's that. Now let's go ahead and move to the back. So for me, I want to measure and be sure that what I have there will be enough. So I have almost 13 here. Okay, that means it will be enough. Now for the back, the first thing you want to go ahead and do is measure your zipper allowance. We are going to connect it all the way, the 8 inches for the shoulder. So I have an accurate line to shape my armpit. Okay, then my bust measurement is 10 inches. I'm going to mark it this way. Now, automatically, this one will be enough for my bust shaping, but no, I'll write it. So when placing my paper on the fabric, I'll be able to do so. Now, why this place is 8 1/4, I'm going to note it. So now, once I'm done with that, remember the nipple to nipple distance we used at the front was 4 1/4. We're still going to maintain the same 4 1/4 here. Now, for the that here, from the shoulder to this point, the bust line is 8.5. I'm going to add 1 inch to it, which makes it 9.5. So I'm going to come down for my 9.5. So I'm going to connect the 2 points now. Okay, now, so I'm going to come up here, measure my 4 1/4 as well. This is it here. And I'll connect the points together. Okay, now once I do so, just as we did at the shoulder, you want to go ahead, get the midpoint, which is 258, connect it to that point so you have your panel, your style line ready before you go ahead and take in your dart. So now here's my style line. Now, regardless of what you are working with, the dart intake for the front is, and I mean for the back, at the shoulder is not always more than ½ inch. It simply means I'm going to take 1/4 to the left and 1/4 to the right. By the time you measure what I have here in total, it's ½ inch. So I took 1/4 to the left, 1/4 to the right. Now, and the dart length is must not be more than 3, at the most 3.5, which is why I have here. And I'm going to connect it like so. This point to this point here, and this point. Okay, let me bring it here so I'll be able to see what I'm doing. So this point here as well. Okay. So now, and the back, the waistline should not be more than half to the left and half to the right. And you're good to go. And you bring it back here. So, and that's it. Now, for me, there's one last thing I'm going to do. Actually, not the last thing though. So, I always shorten my back length by 1 inch. So, I'm going to come up by 1 inch here. And I'll blend it. Remember this 1 inch. So, now, I'm going to, the total 1 inch here, I'm going to return it back. So, it simply means that I'm connecting from here to this point now. Let's get to that. So, now, and this is what I have here now. This is what I have. So, now, we want to go ahead and shape the armhole. I've basically added the cutter that is going to take place here, but there's no seam allowance here. There's no seam allowance here too as well. So now the next thing is going to be the shape to shape the armhole. So now remember the ½ inch here. I'm simply going to bring this place down by the same ½ inch, making sure I still maintain the 1 inch here. And once I do so, I'm going to connect here now to here, and that's it. So, and that's it. So the next thing is the yoke at the front. This is the yoke for the front. I mean for the front and the main body. So now for the front, there is no. It's just the body. There is no bust at the back, rather for the back. So I can do my back as low as I want, and you can do yours as low as you want. So I'm still going to maintain this point since that is where I'm maintaining for the front now. So and at this point, I'm going to make my back to drop a little bit more. So I'm going to try and blend this now. So this 9.5. So I can work with 9.5. I can work with 10. Since there's going to be a lace fabric, it's just the lace fabric covering my body, so there's no issue with that. So I can come down here now, like this. So like I said, you do want to do what pleases you, because at the end of the day, that is all that matters. It's you that is rocking the dress. Connected this point, then right, add seam allowance. That's add SA, add SA. At this point, so when you are placing it on fabric, you do want to add ½ inch here, add ½ inch here. So you do want to add half, add half, so that is that half that you're going to use to sew the upper and the lower part together. The same thing too happens with this part. So add half, add half, add half, add half. Then you now want to determine or decide your neck width and your neck shaping. Looking at that one, the neck is close, so I can as well go with, let's say I can go with 3.5, just so it won't shock me. So then for the neck depth, I can go ahead and work with three or three and a half as well. So I have a round neck. So whenever you're working with a neck measurement whereby your neck width and your neck depth is accurate or the same thing, you can go ahead and measure all the way around this way. That is only when your neck width and your neck depth is the same thing. So you can go ahead. It simply means you are working with a round neck. So then for the back, I'm going to work with the same. Sorry if I'm getting it confused. Okay, let me flip it back then. Do it this way. So now for the back, you can go ahead measure your 3.5 inches, which is going to be the neck width. The neck depth for the back, it depends on you actually. So you can decide to work with 1 or 1.5, then create a opening because basically the video we can't see. I mean the picture we can't see the back. So I'm working with a neck width of 3.5 and a depth of 1.5. So and I'm going to go ahead and slightly shape it like so. So in this case, both measurements are not accurate. So it will be I can't go ahead and say I want to measure 3.5 all the way or measure 1.5 all the way. No, it doesn't work that way. So now and that's it. So you can decide to have a little opening at the back. It depends on what you want to do really. So but for me I'm not going to. I'm just going to have a slit. There won't be any shaping anyway. So now let's go ahead and start cutting it out. I'm going to go ahead cut the neck now. So you're closing your data at this point because you don't need a data token. Close it down. The next thing will be to place the pattern on the Ankara and cut it out. So I'm starting with the side back. Oopsie. So the side back. No allowance, nothing, nothing. The only thing I need to do is to add half inch at this point. So remember the first one we cut. I'm just going to place it this way. So for the smaller sleeve, it as I'm going to extend my shoulder by 5 inch. I'm trying to make it in a way that it will still cover up with my arms and my bicep. And this point too, I'm still going to come down here by half inch though. So I'm just going to measure the half here, which is here. I'm going to connect it all the way. So now this is going to be the arm here. I'm just going to just cut it out and see. Try to see what I can do. So I'm trying to cut it in a way that I'll be able to join this. By the time I join this, I still have space so that this space we have a little bit of the sleeve. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to do. So this is what I'm trying to do so that by the time I join this together now, this one will still have a little bit of sleeve that I'll be able to close then before I close the side. So if you want, you can as well shape this place so that this place won't just be straight. You can shape this place a little bit so that it has that curve, this little curve, just any way you want to do it. So I'm going to set this aside and work with the back. For the back, remember we haven't added the seam allowance before I cut it out. So this is what I'm simply going to do. I'm going to measure from this point now to this point so I know what I'm working with. So this is 4 1/4. So now I've gone ahead. I put my add button into the main fabric. I'm using add one, not soft one. Then I cut my lining too. I use the fabric to cut the lining, not the brown paper. I use the fabric directly to cut the brown, I mean the lining. So I've done so for the front and the back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, join the fabric to fabric. I'm going to join the fabric to fabric, and once I'm done, I'm going to do the same thing too for the lining on the front bodice and the back body. So let's go ahead and do that. Once I'm done, this is the lace. I just removed the paper on it. I've joined everything together. This is the main fabric. This is the front. This is the back. Now I've done the same thing too for the lining. Now at this point, I've notched the mid part of the front. I've also notched the mid part of the lace. All I'm simply going to do at this junction is to take this to my sewing machine and sew that half inch that we measured here. I'm going to sew it all the way for the front and even the back too. There's no need to notch anything at the back because automatically this is the zipper allowance and this is the same thing. So I'm just going to take it together and sew that half inch all the way. So let's go ahead and do that. Done joining everything together. The next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulder together. I'm going to join the shoulder of the front and the back and the front and the back. So let's get to that and do that now. So I'm going to use it to turn over this place so that I'll close this place. I'm going to do the same thing too for the back pieces and you can go ahead and do it. So now I'm done turning it with the lining. The next thing I'm going to do is simply going to be to press it. And once I'm done pressing, let me just explain what I'm going to be doing next. So once I'm done pressing, this is what I'm going to be doing next. I'm simply going to measure my waist circumference. So now, here now, I have, let me measure this. I have 10 inches. I'm going to subtract 1 for my zip allowance, which it means I'm left with 9. So now, whatever my waist circumference is divided by 4. So what I'm going to measure it, and whatever I have left will be what I'm going to sew in. So I'm going to sew it in from this point. Now I'm going to bring it together, sew it in from this point, from the waist to this point. Then for the joining here, note that this point here must match up. This point here must match up. So now, once I'm done sewing it here, I'm just going to slightly sew half inch here. Just half inch is enough. If you want to bend it, you can go ahead and bend, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to slightly sew half inch all the way here and match it up to that point. It's just going to be a slight, a slant seam. Like let's say if my seam gets here now, if my seam gets here, I'm going to slightly go out, but just on a straight line all the way here. And I'll do the same thing for the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. And by the time we are back, we come back to work on the pants. And this is all I have. I'm going to set this aside. Then let's focus on this now. Now, for this, if you want to have a pocket, because of my fabric, the fabric has finished, so I would have loved to have a pocket here. So I'm not going to add any pocket. So now the first thing I'm going to do is to bring this now side to side. Remember the bodice is finished. I've coupled the side, I've sewn the side seam. So I'm going to bring this now. I'm going to sew both sides, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other part leg. Let's go ahead and do that. The side I've emptied. So for the bodies I've notched the center front. I'm going to measure whatever I have from there to the center back. And what I have here is okay, 17 inches. I have 17 inches here. So it simply means that whatever pleats or gather I take here, it must fit. It must be left with 17 inches. Yes, the zipper allowance inclusive. It simply means I'm going to now go ahead and pleat it. The picture of what we are following now is just small pleats this way. Small pleats. You need to space the pleats though. Small space pleats. So I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine now and split it small, those small plates all the way. Then I'm going to make sure, let's say like this one, I'm going to take a little here, then I'll give it small space. I'll take another one here, I'll give it small space. I'll take another here. So that's how I'm going to do it all the way. Let me just pin it down. So this is the next one. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing too for the second pant leg, and I'll go ahead to my sewing machine and top stitch it. So this is it here. So you make sure you finish it at 17 and a half because of the seam at the front. So I'm having 18 here. I'm going to adjust it and make sure I finish it at 17 and a half. Why? The half is because of the seam that is going to take place here at the center front of at the crotch area, the front crotch area of the trouser. Remember for the bodies, we measured it with the zipper allowance. So this one is still coming back in. So let's get to that, and don't forget to top stitch it all the way. So now I've pleated it. I do the small pleats and I've top stitched it rather. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, it's going to be to join the inseam. I'm going to join my inseam. You can do not too much though. Half inch is perfect. So I'm going to join the inseam for both pant legs. Let's go ahead and do that. Now the next thing is going to be for me to match the crotch together. So you want to make sure that you match it up together at the inseam area here. Then you sew it all the way. These 2 points must match up. So you sew this to this. That's the front. Taking half inch, remember. Then you stop at for the back now. Remember the half inch you measured for the zip allowance. You just stop it. You can come up a little bit. Let's say half inch a little bit. You just stop somewhere. Look at, just stop somewhere. You stop there so that the zip will be able to come in. So now, and when you are done, you can go ahead and attach the pants to the bodice. Then you are left with fixing the zip. Let's get to that. Done with the pants now. I'm just simply going to go ahead. I'll bring the top over this way and I'll sew half inch all the way. And once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and attach my zip. So you do want to determine where you want your zip to get to. If you want it to get to the top, you're fine. If you want it to stop somewhere here, then maybe you want to just go ahead and bend this one somehow. Anyhow you want to close your zip, or you want your zip to be at this junction, it's left to you. So, but for the fixing of this together, I'm just going to go ahead, bring the top to the pants and sew half inch all the way. So let's get to that and fix your zip. So guys, if hopefully I'm going to rock it and show you how it looks in the next video. So see you later.